right now. Just fan questions.
Hey, Chael, Christian from the Pacific Northwest. Got a quick and simple question for you. What do we know about Israel Adesanya's ground game? Can you break it down for us? Haven't heard any discussion about it.
Okay, so we know that it's getting better. We also know that's not his bread and butter. That's not his forte. That's not what he grew up doing. He was a stand-up fighter, had, what was he, 29-2 in kickboxing. That's off the top of my head, but I'm very close. 29-3, very close. So he had to learn the grappling later. He got bit by the MMA bug. He found himself an MMA gym and a team, and he started working on it. Now, from in-ring competition, we know that it's getting better. I mean, don't forget, Adesanya was getting taken down. He won a split decision in like his second UFC fight and possibly his very first. I mean, it was a split decision. But largely, the blueprint was out. Just take this guy down. He can't get up. In his next fight, all of a sudden, he's still getting taken down, but then he's scrambling and able to get up. His fight after that, now you can't even take him down. All of a sudden, he's in a world championship fight with Kelvin Gastelum. He gets taken down. He transitions into a triangle choke and then uses that to create a scramble and comes back up to his feet. So what do we know about his grappling? We know that it is evolving. We know that any weaknesses that he had in his grappling, he is aware of, his coaches and teammates are aware of, and that they're working on it at a rapid pace. As far as him having a deficit or a weakness, I struggle tremendously at seeing a guy who's a world champion and then saying, here's what his weakness is. Well, all you have to do with him, just put him in this position and keep him there for 25 minutes. I do struggle with that a lot. Chuck Liddell was a much better grappler than people ever know or saw, because he had another skill set, and that was the one that he preferred to use, just by example. So I guess I'll leave it at that on Adesanya. We know that he viewed that as something he needed to work on. We've seen from competition that he has worked on it. And by the way, his confidence in his grappling is so high that he's now actively trying to get matched up with the most decorated wrestler currently in the UFC, in Yoel Romero.
Hey, Chael, big fan here from Strong Island, New York. Okay, so why isn't anyone talking about Justin Gaethje versus Khabib? In my personal opinion, I think he's the toughest fight for Khabib. Not only is his striking incredible, phenomenal, but his wrestling is even better that we've never seen in the octagon. He never uses. I mean, he's a top-tier wrestler. And as you said, Sambo sucks. So when it comes to wrestling versus Sambo, plus you throw in Justin Gaethje striking, I think that's the guy to take Khabib down. What do you think?
Well, I must tell you, my friend, I'm glad that you are okay. I'm glad that the recovery process has worked out. And maybe this will teach you to not ride a motorcycle so fast without your helmet on. Now, I say that because I assume you just woke up from coma. The hell do you mean nobody's talking about Justin Gaethje versus Khabib? Everybody's talking about Justin Gaethje versus Khabib. 2 days ago, I had on their manager. They happen to have the same manager. Ali Abdelaziz represents both of them. He wants to get his own boys together in there for the World Championship. Justin Gaethje has called for it to the point that he said, I'm going to go into training for that fight just in case anything happens to Tony Ferguson. Justin Poirier, who was just the champion, came out and said, I believe the toughest matchup for Khabib is Justin Gaethje. So I'm assuming when you say nobody, you mean everybody.
What's up, Uncle Chael? Here's my question. So, we've seen Adesanya fight Anderson, Gastelum, and Whitaker. He seemed to progress immensely in between each of those fights. There was a big difference in the fight from Anderson compared to Whitaker. Do you think, out of respect for Anderson being his idol, that he went easier on him? Or do you think he was just being careful the whole fight? Let me know.
Oh, I thought Anderson Silva just competed great that night. I loved that fight. That was one of my favorite fights of the whole year, quite frankly. I'm surprised how that hasn't got a little bit more praise than it has. Good of you to remember that. But no, I definitely didn't see Adesanya taking care of Anderson, not in the least. I think he wanted to get Anderson out of there. Anderson just came to fight. And once Anderson got warmed up and started feeling it out, he realized, boy, I'm fighting myself. I know this guy. I know how this guy moves. I know how to do the pull. The pull is something that it's very common in boxing and kickboxing, but it's a very hard thing to do. I can't do it. I just don't have the back. I just don't have the body. You got the dip, you got the weave, you got the duck, you got the roll. But to do the pull, where you just pull back and the kick goes in front of your face like you're a character from the Matrix. Anderson can do that. Adesanya can do that. I mean, all of a sudden, they're doing the pull to each other. They're coming. Anderson just liked that fight. You get about a minute, 90 seconds into that fight, Anderson Silva starts to realize, boy, I like this fight. And he just started fighting back. Adesanya said, oh, this is the game you want to play? All right, let's do that. No, you're not going to do a takedown. I'm not going to do great. Let's kickbox with 4-ounce gloves on. That's what I saw. And, Anderson Silva won a round, by the way, officially. All three judges gave him the second round. It went 1-3 to Adesanya, 1 to Anderson. The only reason I bring that up is Anderson deserves credit. He fought great against the guy that it turns out is the best fighter in the world. And we didn't even know at that time in Adesanya. And I also do think that was a very good note by you where you said that Adesanya progressed and made steps between each fight. That's what I'm seeing as well. And that's where I think some of the respect and appreciation that Adesanya is being given is accurately being placed. He does deserve that credit. He is obviously very dedicated in the practice room. You don't just get better. That's not how it works. You've got to earn that. You got to sacrifice for that. You got to have great coaches and break down tape, and you got to have a guy that's open-minded and isn't afraid to say, here is somewhere I can improve. And I think it's very clear that Adesanya does that.
Chael Sonnen, Rainier from South Africa, a huge fan, shout out. In terms of the Paul Felder Dan Hooker matchup, that sounds like pay-per-view main event material to me. I mean, everyone loves Paul Felder and Dan Hooker. Everyone knows what they're about, and everyone knows that they're the type of fighters that bring these elite skill sets, and they give 100% in that octagon, for 25 minutes if need be. So talk to us about that fight and what it means for the lightweight division specifically, and for those fighters' long-term careers and where they could be, whether they win or lose that.
Well, Dan Hooker called for something big. I mean, in his last fight, he got a win over Ally Aquina that was fairly convincing. I mean, going into that fight, I was back and forth on how this is going to go. I mean, Hooker was just firing on all cylinders that night. He really couldn't have looked better. But then he called for something big. He was very good in his post-fight interview, and he called specifically for Dustin Poirier, who was available and who was very meaningful in that weight class. Now, he didn't get Poirier, but he did get what he intended for, which was something big. He's now went from the main event of a record-setting gate of 57,000 live people, co-main event, to the main event. So he got something big against Paul Felder. I mean, look, when you're fighting in main events, there's nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else to go on the card. Now you don't have to start worrying about the card. You got to just start worrying about the business and the competition as a whole. You can't go above main event. Now you just got to slide over to title fight. I mean, Dan Hooker is right there. And then when you talk about Paul Felder, yeah, what a match. What an absolutely terrific match. And is title implications for these guys? Let's see where things get by the time they get in to the ring. But sure, they're at least going in that direction. They're the main event.
Bo Nickel versus Gordon Ryan. Is this for the WTF title? Because I see no point in doing what they're doing. There's zero reasoning behind it. You got Bo Nichols, a very good freestyle collegiate wrestler. Gordon Ryan, the best under Eddie Bravo, ADCC, and any other grappling rule set you want to do. So I think the promoter might have been suffering from paralysis by analysis. Gordon's opponent fell out. The better thing to do would have been 2 completely separate rounds. One under collegiate freestyle rules, one under ADCC rules, and let them both have at it. They can both walk away with a victory, or one of them has a lot to win, and they both have a lot to lose.
Oh, Guy. You said, is this for the WTF title? That's just brilliant. That's just really, really solid work right there. Can I have that? Can I use that? Is this for the WTF title? Well done.
Hey Chael, Andrew from Sacramento, big fan. Just had a quick question. So regardless of the outcome of Usman and Covington in December, I think Masvidal has the next shot at that title. And I think he fares pretty well against both of those guys. So let's just say he wins that and becomes champ, and decides to go up to face Izzi at middleweight and actually wins and becomes champ. I just want to know, for conversational purposes, what you thought of that, if you see it happening, if it did happen, how you think Masvidal would fare in a fight against Izzi, and could that maybe make him greatest of all time or in that conversation? Thanks.
No, heck no, I do not see that happening. Look, Masvidal, don't forget, just moved up to 170. I mean, he was doing business at 155, going up to 185. I mean, here, no, he is not leaving. But there's also some other reasons we should point out. Now, I love what you're saying about the champ thing. And yes, I do believe from a competitive standpoint, he is the rightful #1 contender that could be and should be offered the opportunity, given the chance to go in for the title against the winner of Colby and Kamaru. I agree with you. I think that's all true. He just is also in a very unique spot where he can just start going and doing one-offs. There's just nobody else in the business like that right now. The Diaz boys qualify, sure. Conor qualifies, sure. And now George Masvidal. I just don't know that that's a card that you ever give back. I mean, he's sitting on a ticket right now. Aside from I just named him. He's in the same company as the Diaz boys and as Conor McGregor. He can go do whatever he wants. And he may want to go in and fight for that belt. And I do think that it changes. If Kamaru wins, I think Kamaru versus Masvidal is a little bit different fight in terms of anticipation than it would be with Colby, because you do have that backstory with Colby. You guys were roommates, friends. They were cornering each other, training partners. They're still teammates. They just don't work out together apparently anymore. I guess, hey, you stay over here and I stay over here. It was something weird like that is going on, but there's a story there. I think that's a dramatically different fight that is more likely to be put together, perhaps, than George and Kamaru. But you know what? I don't know that any of those happen. Again, he is holding the ace of spades right now. And I think he's probably going to throw that card on the table, but in a different direction. That's my guess. But it will not be, in fairness, it will not be at 185. He just has too much to do at 170. He has too many opportunities right now at 170.
Which MMA fighter do you think would make the best crossover into boxing? For me, I think Stipe would have a good shot. I'd like to know what you think. Cheers.
Oh, sure. Stipe would do really well, particularly because of the weight class, right? I mean, there's things that you can go and do at heavyweight that you just can't do at other weight classes. There's some speed there where Stipe'd match up real nice. There's some height issues there where Stipe would fit in real nice. There's some footwork issues there. There's some condition. I mean, yes, Stipe would do tremendously well. I also think that Max Holloway is a lot better boxer than he gets credit for. I know early in his career, he was a little bit more known for kind of some of that dirty fight. He get in the clinch work, but it was a lot of grappling heavy, a lot of takedowns involved. Now I'm just seeing those ones and twos. He can dig to the body, come back upstairs. He can do it all night long. I mean, I really think that Max Holloway qualifies as amongst the best pure boxers in all of MMA. Frankly, Nate and Nick Diaz would have to be on that list. They spend their time at a boxing gym, straight up boxing, not kickboxing, not Muay Thai, Western Queensberry rules. They used to train all the time with Andre Ward. So they would know exactly what they're getting into as well as how to prepare for it, because that's just how they train. So those would be a couple of options. I think of all of those, I think I do agree with you. I think that Stipe is the one that could cross over at the snap of a finger.
One championship have a model where they have Muay Thai fights and kickboxing fights to be included on their MMA events. Should the UFC start looking at such a model, and what are the benefits?
We're not going to see that in the UFC, but that wasn't your question, is where we're going to see it. Your question was, should they look at that model? I think that that's a pretty easy and pretty hard no. Don't forget, they're playing in front of sold-out arenas. 53 shows a year in a 52-week calendar a year. Sold out. Sold out. It's one of these things where, no, they would not need any kind of a gimmick. They would not need anything to spruce attention. They don't even need to, bring in rock and roll artists to sing people to the ring. No, the UFC does not need to do anything to change their business model. But I will remind you, when one is doing that, they are largely pandering to a different audience and even a different culture. And some of the things that work are exciting in a different part of the world and with different cultures are things that wouldn't cross over here. So if that was done here in North America, that would kind of be maybe a publicity stunt, maybe something along those lines for attention and cross-branding and to bring two audiences into one house. Over there, the audience is totally different, and that's not even viewed as a stunt. That's just viewed as a great way to entertain a crowd.
What's up, champ? This is Trevor from Kentucky again, and I've got another question, so I thought I would bring it to Chael Sonnen, since the P still stands for smartest man in the world. The UFC has seen some of the most bitter rivalries the sport of mixed martial arts has ever seen. Rivalries like Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell, Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen, Vitor Belfort versus USADA, John Jones versus Daniel Cormier. My question to you is Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz considered a true rivalry? And my second part is, what are some of your favorite rivalries the UFC has ever seen? Thanks.
That was fantastic. Very, very well done how you slipped that in. I got to tell you, some of my, I like the ones that you just said. I thought that the Frank Trigg and Matt Hughes was very fun. I thought that BJ Penn, the way he had it out for George St. Pierre for whatever reason, I thought that was a good time as well. Chuck and Tito should be mentioned in there. Did you mention that one? I thought that was fun. Andre Arlovsky and Tim Sylvie had stuff that spilled out of the cage and still lives on in memes around the world. Yeah, look, there's something to be said for those grudges, and I do think they're fun. I would also just remind you, when you're talking about the all-time great rivalries, there still does appear to be something to Stipe and Cormier. And while that never really gets brought into the rivalry, that's because those guys were so nice and they were so polite to each other. But when you share the cage twice, particularly in the heavyweight division, and particularly when the story of both fights were power shots, the first one, the uppercut, followed by the hook of Cormier, the second fight, 13 body shots to the liver in the fourth round, all in the same round by Stipe. When you're doing that hard of fights, you're talking about knocking people out that are in the 265-pound weight class. I just think as you're going towards part 3, whether it was built around trash talk and making things personal, or it was built purely around competition, that's still one of my favorite rivalries.
Hey, Chael, I'm relatively new to the UFC, and I don't watch other promotions, so I missed most of your mixed martial arts career. But I was wondering whether you think that you had a more successful amateur wrestling career or a mixed martial arts career in the UFC and in Bellator and etc. Or are you more successful post-fighting with the work with Bad Guy Inc. and your YouTube career? Thanks.
Oh, I guess it would depend how you defined success. I won a lot more matches in amateur wrestling. Now, I did that from the time I was 9 years old to 24 years old, and for spans of those years, for many, many months of each one of those years, I would have 6 and 7 matches every week. Every single Saturday, there'd be 5 matches, and then once I got to high school, there was a dual meet on a Thursday night, so 6 matches. So you just had more matches, you had more opportunities. Does that convert to success, or some of those lower level matches? Or I think you've got a really good balance in there. Does it count to have 100 matches by the time you're 11 years old? Does it even matter? Should you be proud of winning the little local tournament? When you compare that to professional athletics where it's iron on iron, there's no scrubs or a new guy or a JV guy gets slipped in the mix somewhere. It's all champion versus champion. Fought 11 world champions, won 8 of those fights. So I think that possibly those 8 wins would represent a lot more than 800 wins when it was kind of just an all-comers league like it was in wrestling. So I don't know I don't know how you would define success. I suppose I would take what happened in front of a larger audience for more attention and got me more pats on the back. And that would have to go to MMA.